Okay, welcome back to Blazer Builds. Today I'm finishing up the teardown on this twin turbo new edge Mustang. Just had twin eBay GT3582s, stock bottom end 5.3 with a built turbo 400. It's in pretty rough shape when it came in, so we're just kind of rebuilding everything. We're going to redo the electrical, so that's what I'm working on today, is removing the electrical and the gas tank. I am going to run the gas out of the tank next. This is not my car, so I ended up getting one of these 3-piece fender cover sets. It's $21 on Amazon. It's a magnetic cover set. Got these little hooks and some neo magnets in it. So that should work out pretty good just because I'll be leaning over the fenders a lot and don't really want to scratch them up. So I'm going to get started on running the gas out, dropping the tank, getting rid of these intercooler pipes because we're going to rebuild them all as one welded section. So let's do that. Okay, so I got the inner fender well off and just kind of going through some of the electrical here. Just trying to trace down the wires and figure out what everything is. I have the wideband sensor, but I found this big wad of tape on it, and I thought this might be interesting to go through this together and see what we find. See, two of the wires in there are already damaged, so I'm wondering if this is a splice that is covering up damaged wires, or if this was actually cut and fully spliced together. One, just out of curiosity, and then two, I guess just good knowledge to see, what we were dealing with that was controlling the fueling on the car before, because I did find a bunch of fuel in the oil, so I'm really kind of just doing a real thorough job inspecting everything that might be affecting that. Yeah, so it looks like this thing was almost cut and spliced together, which is kind of sketchy. These wires were all cut and spliced and just twisted and taped back together. I don't think I would have done it on an O2 sensor. So I wonder if that was actually cut on purpose and then spliced back together, or if they spliced two together to try to extend it. I don't really know, but there are different lengths O2 sensors you can get. So I'll have to just keep that in mind, that that might not be the right length. The O2 sensor lead is actually pretty long coming from the Holley, so we'll see. We'll have to make sure we can make that work when we put it back together. These wastegate lines were just kind of loose on here. So it's like a coolant overflow. This fan, this is for the factory fan. It has a broken clip on it, so I'll probably find a new plug and repin that. The fan is not controlled by the Holley that I know of, so I'm guessing this is just ran off of the car because it's on all the time. This wire that was controlling the fan had half of a butt connector, one half of a butt connector on it. One side was butt connector, one side was just wire smashed into the butt connector, all burnt on the connector. So I'm guessing because this is the factory wire that was inside the loom, and then this one was added, I'm guessing this was just a positive lead that was put on there to give constant power here and bypass it. It looks like that lead is connected to this relay here. So this was probably added as a fan, so this was probably added for a fan relay. And then this power was going to the relay just to give it constant power and bypass the factory internals. So I double checked the tune file, I looked at the pinout, and this one is actually the fan relay. So you can see the ground output come in here. So this is the ground that triggers the fan relay. So that's the gray-black wire. Then this connector up here actually goes to the boost control solenoid. So you have the gray-red wire, which is for the boost solenoid for the controller. So it probably just has a red wire going for a 12-volt positive. And then you get your PWM negative trigger. This wire here goes up to the alternator plug. So I'm guessing that's a positive, and then it has a resistor in there somewhere. Oh, that's actually the resistor right there. So I guess I gotta be super duper careful with that so that doesn't break. So I might just end up getting rid of this because he does have flex set up, and I'll probably just end up going with the Sloppy Mechanics plug and play guy that has the alternator, flex fuel, and you can even do like dial-a-boost and stuff. It's all one plug-in unit instead of using this this resistor. So we'll get that guy out of here. Alright, so clip this wideband plug out. So this is all just zip tied up to the transmission cooler lines. I'll probably keep the cooler lines there for now. Okay, so kind of just going through and pulling some of these wires out. This is the fan system. This is where the fan was connected. This is going to the boost controller. There's the fan input output plug with all the power grounds and then the ground trigger. Pull this guy out. This stuff just all runs right to the back. And then here's actually the I/O harness that hooks up to the Holley. So that stuff's all connected to this. So it had 3 outputs and 1 input. Had the boost controller, the fan, the secondary fuel pump for the outputs, and then the flex for the input. And then this is all loomed and goes back to the secondary fuel pump setup. That's all kind of loomed together. See if I can actually get this together in one bundle so I can pull it out. It's kind of wrapped around. It's wrapped around the main harness. All right, so I'm going to pull the rest of the harness out. All right, so there's the rest of the engine harness. Let's pull this all through. Now maybe we can unwrap some of this stuff. Yeah, so I think it'll be easier to just kind of start fresh. This green wire is for the starter. Here's the CAN bus for the dash. And it does have one switch 12 volt coming over from the driver's side over to the main harness. There's a CAN splitter. Gray-green. I don't know if there's like a butt connector or something inside here. Yeah, there's a butt connector. See how easy that comes apart? Alright. So we salvage the I/O connector. And if there's not any butt connectors in here on this output for the fan, I will depin it from this weather pack probably. And maybe I'll just leave this all connected for now. So yeah, now this whole section is all separated. So this is the power. This is all the power for the fans connected to the I/O, and it stays connected because it has the boost controller and the fan output on it. So the rest will be the leads going back for the power lines. This is the wire for the secondary fuel pump. This is the primary fuel pump, constant power, and the tack signal was in here too. But that's not too bad. Leave that, and then we have the main power going back. And then we have the main power going back. So this is the main power and ground, and then you have the smaller little ground wrapped in here. So I think what I'll do for now is wrap the main harness into a ball. And kind of keep that down here for now. Because that we may not need to actually remove. The power and ground is probably good. I might want to redo the power and ground for that fan or pull power from a different spot. Its camera died earlier, but I traced back some of this wiring. I got all of the fan wiring and stuff back here. This has a power and the main fuel pump wire, which is this white wire, and comes back here and eventually comes down through here to the tank. I did put a clamp on it because I wanted to see how much current it was drawing while I was just running the tank out, and it was only drawing like 10.6 amps. So I had a hunch that it was only one pump hooked up. So I started figuring out what all these wires are back here. This one's for the trans brake power. This one and this one are the main ECU power and grounds. This bundle here was for the fan relay that went up to the front. And then here we got power for the secondary fuel pump relay and the additional constant power going to the ECU. So if we look back over here, we have another relay. This is supposed to be for the secondary fuel pump, and that actually comes right over to here, which it says R pump 2, which was not hooked up, and this one was hooked up, and I accidentally pulled it off when I dropped the tank, but I did drop the tank out of it. It does have this weather pack connector here, and this wire was actually for the secondary fuel pump, which was not hooked up. The primary was hooked up, so I was able to verify that only one of the pumps was hooked up. So it does have two 450s. It does not have the primary pump, which we thought was like a 255. So we thought it had one 255 and then two 450s in it, but it only had two 450s and only one of them was hooked up. So that would make sense why he said when he was rolling into it, it was leaning out, and when I pulled the fuel learn table off the ECU, it was correcting 50% and it was maxed out. Along with the fuel pressure not rising with boost and only having one fuel pump hooked up, it was running out of fuel. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish pulling these wires out, unhook all the wires from the battery, take out all the power wires, and then next video we'll have a nice clean platform to start with no wiring or no anything in there. And then we can start the fun part of actually building this thing and making it how we want it. So essentially everything that needed power to go forward had its own wire. So we could probably do some kind of power distribution up front where we don't have to run all of these wires to the front. You can run a main supply to the front, probably in the fuse box or where the ECU is, and then do some kind of power distribution in here. So we do have some space in there. Probably move the ECU around, and then we can run main power and ground up to here, maybe do a bulkhead by the floor. I do have some of these firewall bulkheads, which I was going to use in my Ranger, but we could do something like this possibly. That way we don't have every single thing having its own power source. I do like that it did have a ground going all the way to the front from the battery. So power and ground came all the way to the front. The ground was actually grounded to the K-member down there, and it was grounded to the engine block. So the power and ground should be able to be reused. The alternator wire definitely needs to be redone because it had a big burn in it. So some of it we'll be able to keep. We'll probably do some kind of power distribution. So there is a little bit yet I need to figure out, like where this power is going to. This is the power that was pulled for the alternator. I'm gonna get these wire nuts out of here. So it should be pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. I'm excited to get the motor in and start mocking up the turbos. But yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe. A little chilly out here, so if the camera's shaking, it's because I'm shivering. Had the garage door open, trying to get all the gas fumes out of here. But today is December 3rd, so tomorrow's Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas, and be safe.